What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 25 of the Elephant Wire Podcast, the show where we break down song lyrics and don't play you a damn second of the song because major labels are thieving babies that would sue us up the ass. This week's episode, we're going to be dissecting the song Alive with the Glory of Love by Say Anything. Let's fucking get some.
Welcome to the Elephant Wire Podcast. Music. Drugs. Laughter. Lyrics.
Boom, boom, boom. What is up, my friends? It is good to be back. Another episode. Ooh, how about I just fucking punch my microphone while we're just in the early throes of this one. Episode 25. We are moving and shaking a quarter of the way through season 2 already. Times are good. We got a fun one today. Say Anything. Some good boys from back in the day. We have quite... I don't even know if it's debatable. We absolutely have their most popular song today, Alive with the Glory of Love. And if you're not familiar with this song, today's episode there may be a bit heavy at some points because of the subject matter of the song itself. But that being said, obviously, if you're a QAnon fuck bag, you'll view our song today as some type of agenda. But if you passed 8th grade and can read at a 4th grade level or have half a soul, much less half a brain, you will find that our story today very interesting. Before we even go any further, I found an awesome quote by this cat. He's a music writer named Ian Cohen. He described our song today as a wildly ambitious and irresponsibly horny piece of musical theater that visualized how the primal procreative urge can still thrive when dead bodies are piling up by the thousands in front of you. And I was like, that's how we're starting the episode, because I could not have said it better ourselves. Wildly ambitious and irresponsibly horny piece of musical theater. It's fucking fantastic. But let's get into it. Let's start diving in here. Say Anything of Los Angeles, California. They are currently on hiatus. However, I don't know. Of the research that I did, that hiatus seems a bit more permanent than hiatus, and that's as of 2019, whenever that hiatus was announced. But Max Bemis is the frontman, original member, addiction survivor, plagued by mental health and unrest. Also, one of the most proficient songwriters of an entire scene for about 10 years. The guy was killing it. In fact, like back in the day, before Say Anything was really anyone or anything, Drive-Thru Records was really trying to get a hold of him and really, really pulling to get Say Anything to be on their label. And they used the quote that Max was the next Bob Dylan. I mean, they loved his songwriting that much. If you're not familiar with Drive-Thru Records, that back in the they had bands like Hello Goodbye, Newfound Glory, Something Corporate, Dashboard Confessional, The Starting Line, Finch was another one. These guys were... Drive-Thru Records had basically half my iPod back in the day. It was fantastic. But a little bit more before we really start diving in. Max is he's written multiple snippets in his lyrics and commented on many occasions about his Jewish heritage. But this song is by far the most blatant. And we'll get into more of that as we go on. But for now, let's get some info on the band. But just as this episode goes forward, Max, in a lot of his songwriting, and I brought it up just because of the quote that we just had from Drive-Thru Records calling him the next Bob Dylan. There's been quite a few times over his discography that he's made many references here and there to his Jewish heritage. But this song today is obviously the most blatant. But from the year 2000 to the year 2019, Say Anything had 23 different members, with only 3 members lasting more than 3 years, which is very interesting. Now, here's one of the very interesting things. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and we were commenting how, music discovery nowadays it's not easier. It's still, it takes a little bit of work, but I remember whenever I first started getting into like music discovery, I remember one of my main places to go was Pure Volume. It was a website that I'm assuming it's still around. I'm sure, I don't know. I might be able to log back in with some music that I was making back in the day. We could see. I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out after I'm done recording here. I hadn't thought about it, but Pure Volume, Pure Anything, Say Volume. Pure Volume was a website back in the day where it was just like, it was like MySpace, but way more dumbed down. It was literally just for bands to be able to post their music. You could make songs free download. People can download your entire EP if you wanted. You could set up links to iTunes or Bandcamp or wherever you wanted, but it was literally just like a little artist bio page where you could list your music. And there was a random button at the top. And you could set parameters, so you could randomize in genres. You could randomize by region of the country, so you could find out if there's some cats around you playing certain tunes. And I remember back in the day just going through that, hitting random, and I came upon a band called Jameson Parker. It was a 2-man, acoustic half band, half full project thing that was going on. And in that period of my songwriting career, that was exactly the kind of tunes I was listening to. Just broody, emo, She Hates My Guts, blah, blah, blah. Well, Say Anything disbanded in, I believe, 2003, if I remember correctly, something like that. So by the time I even stumbled upon them, they'd been done for a minute. It might have been later than that. It might have been like 2005 whenever they disbanded. But one of the cats from Jameson Parker ended up joining Say Anything. And outside of Max Bemis, that cat from Jameson Parker, I believe it's Parker. It might have been Jameson. I don't remember which one it was. It doesn't really matter. But that guy, whoever came from that, was one of the longest lasting members of Say Anything outside of Max Bemis, which I didn't know until I was researching this episode. Very, very interesting. But yeah, 23 members from 2000 to 2019, only 3 members lasting more than 3 years. That's absolutely crazy. But in that timeline, they've released 8 albums, and they spent the majority of their time during those years, the 19 years that they were a band. And I guess we're supposed to say they are still a band. It's a hiatus, but come on, guys, you're done. They spent the majority of their time on RCA label or one of its subsidiaries. But the album that we're talking about today was their first full album. It was released on August 3rd, 2004. The album is called Is a Real Boy. It's a fantastic album cover, like a Pinocchio nose with like kind of phallic looking. It's pretty fun. But today's song was actually the first single release, and it managed to peak on the alternative charts at 28 in 2006. So a couple years after the album came out, but kept picking up steam. One of the most interesting things about the album in general is the process of writing the album. Max had struggled with a lot of different ideas for the record, and he decided that the album was going to focus more on like artistic struggle, and the fact that this is actually a quote by him: the fact that every creative person has this sick ambition to affect some sort of change in society with their art, to be more than just a guy in a band or a poet or a sculptor. Where Max was actually going with this first album, he originally wanted the album to be a rock opera with a full script, narration, characters, like the works, and going on tour with the album, he literally wanted it to be this entire, a rock opera. He wanted it to be this entire production, beginning to end, and a storyline and all of these things. However, in the writing process of that, Max became incredibly overwhelmed by the entire process of writing. And honestly, he was playing most of the instruments as well. I mean, he was doing all of the songwriting, all of the composing, every bit of it, and it became so heavy on him that he actually had a mental breakdown, a legitimate end up in the hospital mental breakdown. Coming out of the hospital and after recovering, he decided to just kind of just drop the script and just write some music. just put out an album, and and we can always go from there. We can move on from there. But around July 2003, the band started recording "Is a Real Boy." And their first album actually came out on Doghouse Records. And whenever asked about the album itself, Max had a really... If you're not familiar with Max Bemis of Say Anything, he is one of the more sarcastic guys in the scene, if you will. His responses to interview questions or his stage presence. I had a buddy went to go see Say Anything one time, and Max had, I guess, just got a jean vest earlier that day and spent the entire show informing the crowd that he was more metal and more punk than anyone has ever been. And like, obviously in jest and just being sarcastic and a goofball. But when he was asked about the album that we're talking about today, Is a Real Boy, he said that he wanted to outdo with the album, the two people that he wanted to outdo with the album were Andy Warhol and Jesus. Those are the two people that he wanted to outdo, which one of those is going to be a little tough. The other one's Jesus. So, all you got to do is just be sexist and you got Jesus beat. So that one's easy. And a couple of the songs on this album, they actually don't play anymore and have taken off of iTunes and things like that. But so the sexism, nailed it. But the album itself, when it came out, it got fucking rave reviews. It really did. AbsolutePunk.net, they gave it a 99% and like really fucking like praised the writing of the album. It was Jason Tate over at AbsolutePunk.net that reviewed it, and he said by the second song, it is perceivable, or it is perceptible. Why did I have so much trouble reading that word? Perceptible. By the second song, it is perceptible that the band has a grasp on crafting songs that do not follow a formula or insult the listener by maintaining a hold on one particular style or sound. That is absolutely what I will say about listening to Say Anything. They're kind of all over the place. They basically just, when they sit down and start writing music, they just write whatever fucking makes sense at the time. And I absolutely dig that. All music, they said, the album, comes off as an impressively well done, multifaceted effort that deserves multiple spins and makes Say Anything truly a band to watch. Rolling Stone ranked the album at 40 greatest emo albums of all time, which is a fantastic accolade to throw at this album. Top 40 greatest emo albums of all time. I kind of want to pull up that whole list. See, every time I reference this list, I want to pull it back up, and then the second I'm done recording the episode, I'm like, sweet, time to move on to the next episode. I never think about it again. So this time I'm gonna make myself a note here. I'm gonna write it down. I'm not, but I need to actually remember this time. 40 greatest emo albums of all time. That's a good list. That's a good list. But let's get on to the song. Let's start talking about this song here. Track 4 of 13 songs. However, there's been a couple re-releases, and honestly, if you pull it up on Spotify now, I just had it up a minute ago. If you pull up Is a Real Boy on Spotify, there's 21 tracks. If you pull it up now, like every re-release, they just added more and more songs, which is fine. We have no problem with that. But the original release had 13 songs. This one was track 4. Came in at 4 minutes, 15 seconds. This song is... The intro of this song is just out of this world. It's just this weird, just weird guitar breakdown, and then it goes into these harmonies of just and then it goes right into Max's scratchy ass, half hungover sounding vocals that are just fucking top notch. It's an absolutely fantastic intro to a song. I love it so much. But last but not least, before we really go any further, the song itself was inspired by Max Bemis' grandparents, who were Holocaust survivors. And the song documents it's not autobiographical, but it is about his grandparents. It's an homage to his grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. And the song, it actually it documents kind of a love story between two individuals as they live their lives in the ghetto. They go into hiding, they go into work camps. And in an interview about it, Max said, his quote was, "I thought about what it would be like to be in love and be separated from the person you love, because these times are just as dire in a way. Anything can happen in a war and terrorist attacks and cynicism and all these actors who oppose love." And I thought that was a really interesting statement that, you know, when we look back at history and we look, you know, I remember being a kid and wondering, like, how did people let this happen? Like, how did just the general public walking around and going to the grocery store, how did people let this happen? And then, like, 2016 hit, and I was like, oh, fuck me. Like, this shit could happen tomorrow. This shit could happen. And Max is absolutely right. You know, to tell the story of two people in love as they go through all of these struggles and all of these things, you know, like work camps and all of the things that they had to go through in hiding and the Nazis, and it's just to still be in love. They're still human beings. They're still young. They're still virile. They're still horny. It is what it is. There's not a lot you can do about love. And when you look at the world around you and all, like Max said, all these actors who oppose love, you know, people that are pretending not to be human to get their agenda across for money or power or whatever it is. But I'm excited. I'm excited to get into this, dig in. Let's get to some fucking lyrics. Let's do it. When I watch you, wanna do you right where you're standing. Right on the foyer, on this dark day, right in plain view of the whole ghetto. The boots stomp meadows, but we ignore that. You're lovely, baby. And this war is crazy. I won't let you down. Oh no. I won't let them take you. Hell no. And when our city, vast and shitty, falls to the axes, they'll search the buildings, collect gold fillings, wallets, and rings. But Miss Black Eyeliner, you'd look finer with each day in hiding. Beneath the wormwood, oh, love me so good. They won't hear us screw away the day. I'll make you say no. I won't let them take you. Alive, alive with love. I won't let them take you. Our Treblinka is alive with the glory of love. Okay, speed it up, go. Should they catch us and dispatch us to those separate work camps, I'll dream about you. I will not doubt you with the passing of time. Should they kill me, your love will fill me as warm as the bullets. I'll know my purpose. This war was worth this. I won't let you down. No, I won't. Alive with love tonight. Well, there it is. That's, there's a lot to unbox here. We've got quite a bit. And, you know, as I was saying before, if you're not familiar with this song, there may be some points where we get into some, I mean, this isn't like a historical podcast, and we're definitely going to make a lot of references to the Holocaust and a lot of notes in there, so it won't be as lighthearted as usual. But where there is points that we can be lighthearted, we will, because the point of this podcast is not to be a bummer, but the Holocaust was a pretty big bummer. I mean, and what's an even bigger bummer is there's people today that try to say that it never fucking happened. That's a bummer. That's a huge, big, giant asterisk of a bummer. Good Lord. But anyway, enough about that. Let's fucking dive in. First line of this song, when I watch you, wanna do you right where you're standing. Now, as a married man to a hot wife, I get that. I really do. I mean, literally the other day, I just happened to catch my wife standing there, and she had a Miller High Life in hand, yoga pants, and a t-shirt. And fuck me, boys, I got frothy. I'm gonna throw that out there right now. I get this completely. I mean, when I watch you, I want to do you right where you're standing. And he keeps going, right on the foyer, right in plain view of the whole ghetto. He does not even care who's watching. I mean, now let's definitely make the reference to the location of this song. World War II, two Jewish youths madly in love, smitten by each other to the degree that they they're almost able to ignore the world around them, as they've referenced in the next few lines that are coming up here. But the ghetto was where, before the final solution of the Nazis, all the Jews were rounded up and they were placed in these really shitty housing complexes and just rounded up, and it was called the ghetto, and that's where they were all forced to live. Is just in these ass to ankles buildings, and with little to no power and water and facilities, and they just shoved them all in there until they figured out that, okay, fine, we're just going to kill them all. Like, it's absolutely disgusting. And it just, like I said a little bit ago, whenever I first started, in school and, going through World War II and learning about history and things like this, at first I was like, how did people let this happen? And then sure as shit, here we are, fucking 2021, and there's still fucking children in cages at the goddamn border. So who the fuck am I to sit here and be like, I can't believe they let that happen? Because I've said my piece, but I haven't fucking gone down there to release them. There's not a whole lot that, like, here we are. I mean, who are we to say that it was so terrible of them? Because we still fucking do this shit today. Dude, at the same time during World War II, we had Asian American people in camps here in the U.S. until we figured out who was good guys and bad guys because of Pearl Harbor. And yeah, we can draw lines in the sand all day like, well, one was for protection and one was just blatant racism. Really? Like, you're going to tell me that they went and rounded up a bunch of, like, absolutely incredible citizens who are willing to fight for their country, and like, okay, your son's going to go fight for his country, but mom and dad and sister, you guys are going to go live in this work camp till we figure out if you're good guys or bad guys. Tangent over. Yeesh. Good Lord. Got that out of the way. There might only be about 7 more of those. He keeps going. The boots stomp meadows, but we ignore that. I mean, they're so blinded by their passion that they're not even going to let the war and marching soldiers stop them. And in the boots stomp meadows, I mean, like the boots that he's referencing, Nazi soldiers wore these big, giant, black, shiny boots. And that's what he's referencing here is their boots. I mean, they were before George Lucas, the Nazi soldiers were actually referred to as stormtroopers, which is kind of interesting when you really think about it. But anyway, keeps going. You're lovely, baby. This war is crazy, and I won't let you down. The promise that no matter what happens, no matter the circumstance, that you will be right by someone's side. It's easy to make that promise in a wedding ceremony at a rustic venue with string lights and a cello. It actually fucking matters whenever there's Nazis trying to find you and send you to a work camp. Like, that's whenever that promise actually makes a difference, is when you're saying this war is crazy, I won't let you down. That's whenever the promise of love actually fucking means something. Not whenever you're both lighting a candle together. Not whenever you just had a great dinner and you're sitting by the river and just talking. That promise is neat. And that promise is nice, and it's all well and good, but it doesn't actually mean shit until there's actually something going on or some reason to make that promise. And that's exactly what we have here. This war is crazy. I won't let you down. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from the promise whenever there is nothing going on, because God forbid. Like, I'm not saying, well, all those marriages out there won't mean shit until someone's trying to kill you. Like, that's not my point here. My point is that this promise actually fucking meant everything. When we get into the chorus, I won't let them take you, won't let them take you, hell no, I won't let them take you, hell no, 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 no. Jewish prisoners were almost always separated from their family and friends once they reached camps that they had been shipped to. And this was calculated. This was predetermined, and it's fucking sickening to think of the fact that, someone thinking to themselves, well, how could they tell? Someone trying to play devil's advocate here. Probably pretty fucking easily they could tell. Like if someone rounded up your family, threw you all in a boxcar, and shipped you to like just the middle of fucking nowhere, Serbia or whatever it is, the northern Poland. When you were getting off and you were getting herded off into processing lines, are you seriously going to look at each other and be like, all right, see you in the cafeteria, and just kind of go your step? No, you're going to stick together as a unit. So whenever you get up there for processing, obviously they're going to fucking, you go that way, you go that way, you go that way. Super easy. The more that I researched this episode and just started thinking of all like the devil's advocate that people play on this subject, it just got sicker and sicker to my stomach. I absolutely did. Because it's sickening enough to think about what happened. It's even more sickening that people want to fucking bury the history. He keeps going in verse 2, and when our city, vast and shitty, falls to the Axis. Now, if you're not familiar with the Axis was a term given to the evil powers during that time, which was Germany, Italy, and Japan. And they had created kind of this coalition of sorts, not necessarily, but a coalition of sorts, while the rest of the world named themselves the Allies. Literally, the rest of the world was the Allies. Also, the reference of the state and the city is obviously, after the Nazis came through. Not the state and the city. Obviously, the reference of the state of the city, vast and shitty. That's after the Nazis had come through. Because, when Jewish people were forced into the ghettos and these terrible living conditions, before that, when they just had homes and lives, they lived in nice houses with restaurants and shops, and they had a normal life, and it was for all it's worth. Just all the things that every single other fucking person had. And, like, their communities were beautiful, and they, parks, riding bicycles, and every single facet of their life was exactly the same. So when he says, when our city, vast and shitty, falls to the Axis, what he's talking about is not only just the plague of war in general, and, like, when war is imminent, people stop mowing their yards. They stop cleaning their windows. There's a few things that kind of fall away whenever those things happen. So what he's referencing here is yes, it's the state of the city at that time. This isn't just some 14-year-old kid in the suburbs going, this town fucking sucks. Like, what do you want, dude? You're 14 years old. You can't drink a beer and you can't drive a car. Go shut the fuck up. Go to the skate park and do what everyone else does. Like, that's not even here or there. But he keeps going. They'll search the buildings, collect gold fillings, wallets, and rings. This is actually a very grotesque picture to take in. When Nazi soldiers would pillage towns as they were going across Eastern Europe, when they'd come into a town, they would literally just storm into people's homes and just start shooting people that they presumed Jewish, and then they would pull out their teeth that had gold fillings with pocket knives to melt them down because they wanted the gold. Now, when you hear the story of someone getting mugged because of a gold necklace or a nice pair of shoes, that's one thing, and I don't mean to separate evil from other evil. My point here is, imagine being so brainwashed that you're told, go get all the gold fillings, and by that they mean, well, we can't just pull them out of their mouth while they're alive, so shoot them first. It's absolutely, like I said, it's grotesque to think that this was something that was actually considered and carried out. And it obviously got so much worse from there. That was a quick death. The way things went from there, if they were not shot on the site, they were taken to a work camp, how much worse it got. But the next line here is actually very interesting because he says, but Miss Black Eyeliner, you'd look finer with each day in hiding. This is something that I actually didn't know, because due to the shortages of materials for stockings for women would actually draw on their legs with black eyeliner so it would appear that they are wearing stockings. And I found that very interesting because, one, like I said, I didn't know that. But two, like when we were referencing the city being vast and shitty, nobody's really walking around, yards are kind of unkempt, garbage cans haven't been emptied. Personal appearance still makes a difference. People are still going to do their hair. They're still going to try to make themselves presentable. And even here, due to materials being everything was going toward the war effort, women would use their eyeliner pens to draw stockings on their legs. It's very interesting because, no matter what's going on, our personal appearance will always try to make ourselves look presentable, no matter what. I mean, I learned that a long time ago whenever I was a raging alcoholic. Like, if you give me 12 minutes in the morning, I could get showered, get a clean pair of clothes, and I'll be at work on time. I can make that happen. No matter what's going on in life, I'll fucking be presentable whenever I get there. But he keeps going here. Beneath the wormwood, ooh, love me so good, they won't hear us screw away the day. Now this is a rather comedic way of going about, once again, what is a very, very bleak picture to be painting. Wormwood is a reference to floorboards here. And the best example that I can give you of this, beneath the wormwood, they won't hear us screw away the day. The best example that I can give you here is if you've seen the movie Inglourious Bastards. At the very beginning, whenever that Nazi, and I remember his actual name, Christoph Waltz, whenever he comes into that French house, and just saying that he's just doing his due diligence, and there's an entire Jewish family hiding under the floorboards. That entire scene, that's what Max is making a reference to here. Not the movie. He's making a reference to the fact of that actually happening, of Jews hiding under people's floorboards to escape Nazis, and hiding out and keeping absolutely silent. And it's funny the way he says this, they won't hear us screw away the day. That feeling of being invincible. That feeling of our love will take us as far as we need to go. And right after this, they go into a chorus again. No, I won't let them take you. Won't let them take you. Alive with love tonight. I won't let them take you. Hell no. Such an awesome chorus because there's about 37 voices just singing all at one time. It's absolutely incredible. And then we get to this little bridge part, and he says, our Treblinka is alive with the glory of love. Treblinka, alive with the glory of love. Now, Treblinka was an extermination camp, and there's a difference between an extermination camp and a work camp. And it's very easy to figure out what the difference between those are. It was built and operated by Nazis, obviously, and it is actually built in Poland during World War II. The camp actually consisted of two separate units. So there was Treblinka 1, which was a forced labor camp, whose prisoners, they worked in gravel pits. There was like an irrigation section. But there was a fair amount of just, wood cutting. And the wood cutting that was done by these prisoners was literally just to fuel cremation pits. That was the only reason they were cutting wood. Was literally to fuel cremation pits. God, it's so fucking disgusting. But it operated between 1941 and 1944, and more than half of its 20,000 inmates died from being shot, from hunger, disease, or mistreatment. The second camp, Treblinka 2, was an extermination camp, and it was referred to as it was mainly referred to as just Treblinka. Whenever Nazi soldiers were referring to Treblinka, they were mainly referring to Treblinka 2, is what they were talking about. There was, in comparison, because we're about to get into some figures here, because a small number of Jewish men who were not killed immediately upon arrival became members of jobs being forced to bury bodies in mass graves. I mean, like, the only people that weren't killed there were literally just used to take care of the people that were killed. During Treblinka 2's operation, it is estimated that between 700,000 and 900,000 Jews were killed in its gas chambers, along with 2,000 Romani people as well. More Jews were killed at Treblinka than any other Nazi extermination camp other than Auschwitz. So it's number 2 on the list of all the camps that the Nazis held. And when you start getting into figures like this, like I said, more than half of the 20,000 inmates that were at Treblinka 1 died. Treblinka 2, it was literally like 98% of the people that went there were just exterminated on the spot. They weren't even kept around. They just like, get rid of them, get rid of them, get rid of them. And it absolutely disgusting. Whew. I knew this episode was going to be heavy, and like I thought I was like mentally prepared for it, but man, when you really start getting into it and looking into it, but it's just, yeesh, it's heavy. But he ends the song, should they catch us and dispatch us to those separate work camps, I'll dream about you, I will not doubt you with the passing of time. And I think this is kind of where that promise that he made at the beginning is kind of coming full circle. Because whenever he first made that promise, it was the imminence of war that was upon them, or the imminence of the Nazis coming to their town. When he first made the promise, to get to this point now, where it's happening, they're here, like it's absolutely happening. And so now he's making a different promise. Should they catch us and we go our separate ways, like nothing changes on my end. And then he even goes a step further to say, should they kill me, your love will fill me as warm as the bullets. I'll know my purpose. This war was worth this. I won't let you down. And this is where that promise really, really comes full circle, that now that things are actually about to happen, now that things are actually like, okay, the fears that we had, here we are. I want you to know nothing has changed on my end. I still mean exactly what I said. I still mean every fucking word of it. I still love you. I will still do everything I possibly can to see to it that I will always be next to you, and I won't let you down. No, I won't. Because whenever he gets to this point in the song, he no longer says, I won't let them take you. He now says, I won't let you down. And I think that's probably one of the more sad parts of the song and the story that's being told here, is that there was a point in their relationship where he was making that promise, I won't let them take you. To then get to this point where he realizes, fuck, there's not a whole lot I can do here. I won't let you down. I will do everything that I possibly can. I won't let you down, but if they catch us and we go separate ways, we got to stay strong. Like we got to, and this is only one rather fictitious story about thousands of stories like this. Thousands upon thousands of stories like this. Families being separated, not even seeing each other for decades after the war. Absolute decades after the war. And I think as far as like final thoughts and notes for this song is love. Like, love is a fucking crazy human emotion. Like, not only can love drive someone to do outlandish things, it can literally keep you alive. Like, the loss of love can almost bring about a feeling of death. So, in turn, holding on to love can bring life. It can bring resilience. It can bring drive. And as far as the story that's told here, and like I said, thousands upon thousands like it, love is something that once you have it, you cannot let go of it. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, and I know there's always a shit ton of factors that go into it. But I don't mean by that don't let it go. I don't mean that if you love someone, it doesn't really matter what they fucking do, just forget. That's not what I mean. I mean this as on a personal note. Of if you truly have love, and if you truly have love for another person, just know that the crazy things that you do are probably out of love. And that being said, if love is your focal point, then those crazy things that you do will actually be pretty loving things. They really will. Now, a lot of times people confuse love with infatuation, or they confuse love with lust, or they confuse love with a lot of things. But love is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to happen. It happens out of nowhere. And whenever you finally figure it out, you go, shit. But this was a very fun episode to research. There was a lot in there. There was a lot of things going on. it got, like I said, it got heavy at a couple points. I didn't want to dwell a whole lot on things, but this is such a fantastic song. Max is an incredible songwriter and just a great story. And, you know, like I said at the beginning, you know, this song was written as kind of an homage to his grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. You know, I was actually talking to my wife about this episode a couple days ago, and she reminded me that it was right around this time last year. She actually she had a patient at the hospital, and not super old, but an older woman that came in and had some surgery, and my wife's a nurse. I don't know if I've ever said that before, but whenever she went to put in the IV, the woman flipped her arm over, and there was the tattoo from Auschwitz. And my wife came, you know, she texted me while she was at work. She's like, I have a patient right now that has a tattoo from Auschwitz. And it's so crazy to me to think. Obviously she didn't reference it because, you know, who knows what kind of terror is there. But, you know, whenever she was telling me the story, she said that whenever she asked the lady to flip her arm over, she was actually kind of shy about it. She didn't really want to flip her arm over. And yeah, the pain that's behind those story after story after story, it's remarkable to see that people were able to come out of that and actually be humans again. They had their humanity stolen from them, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, go back into society. And it couldn't have been easy, and it's absolutely incredible to know that there were a lot of people that were able to kind of put the past behind them, you know, deal with it in any way that they possibly could, and move forward, you know, being a light to those around them that maybe couldn't process as things went forward. But whew, yeah, big things, big things. But anyway, as we get to the end of the episode here, it is now time for, quite possibly, as I say every time, my favorite part of the podcast, which is the local band spotlight. And this week we have some good friends called Ending Left. Good friends, good pop punk emo cats. They say we released our first EP in 2016, but we had been friends since we were 8 years old and talked about being in a band and making music ever since. We love 90s and early 2000s pop punk and emo, and we think you can definitely hear it in our sound. I think what makes us unique in a way is that we stay true to the music we love to write and play. We also take pride in our lyrics and what we try to convey and feel in our songs. That's possibly our biggest goal in itself, to get as many people to hear us as possible and hope that people connect to our songs in a way that we do with our favorite band. Absolutely incredible. Ending Left, thank you so much for being the local band spotlight on this episode. And I would only assume that Ending Left are probably pretty big Say Anything fans, just like any of us who are fans of 90s and 2000s pop punk and emo. Great jams. Well, right on, Ending Left. They're good friends of ours. Thank you so much for being the local band spotlight. Check them out on Spotify. They are good dudes. Support local music, friends. Support local music. And if you like what you hear here today, support the Elephant Wire Podcast. You can go to anchor.fm/the Elephant Wire Podcast, and you can support us financially there with a monthly subscription of some kind that gets you literally nothing other than a giant thank you from us. Although that being said, at the end of Season 2, there will be a gift for all those that support us, just like there was in Season 1. You can also go to our website, theelephantwire.com. And you can support us there with a one-time gift, or hit up our store and grab some merch, some stickers or a t-shirt, what have you. Other ways that you can support the podcast. This is a goofy one, but if your balls need a trimming, go to smoothmyballs.com and you can use the offer code ElephantWirePod and you can get 15% off. How about that, huh? You want to shave your balls? Compliments of the Elephant Wire Podcast? Hit that shit up. Smoothmyballs.com. It's a good time. Absolutely. But thank you so much for tuning in today. This was a fun episode. As dark and as bleak as it got at times, but we made the best of it. But all those here at the Elephant Wire, fuck the suits. We don't like those guys anyway. They don't help us. They don't need anything from us. We don't need anything from them. But as always, fuck the man. Hail Satan. Hug your mom. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.